Hey, Greg,
I
welcome.
was
You like that music, huh?
I was just digging that music.
Yeah, you got to have a little pump up music to get started here. Hey, welcome to the Virtual CMO podcast and our Masterclass series around building a strategic marketing plan. I'm really glad that you could join us today.
Sure, cool. Good to see you.
Yeah. So as we were talking just a little bit about in the pre-call, this is part 5 of our series. So we started out talking about what it means to build a strategic marketing plan, and then what is your target market and ideal customer profile. Really important to have those things identified. And then in part 3, we talked a little bit about product market fit and competitive differentiation. And then moved on to really creating your brand story. What does your brand represent? What does it mean? And I'm really excited today that now we're going to be able to explode that out a little bit and talk about really dominating the competition with a compelling 3 to 5 word marketing message. And you are the guy that I sought out to talk about this because I know that this is a focus of your company, Pitch Kitchen. And I was wondering if you could just start out the conversation today by giving folks a little bit of a background on what you do and what is Pitch Kitchen.
Yeah, sure. So I'm Greg Rosner, and I started Pitch Kitchen about 4 years ago, having really a whole career in selling commodity services like language translation services to companies like Apple and Texas Instruments and IBM. And language translation, that means website translation, and that means using all sorts of artificial intelligence and software and so I was selling all that stuff, and I realized that the marketing material that I got from marketing was really bad. The sales decks that we had to use, the even the home pages that we referred our customers to, I was really embarrassed to send our customers to them because they were just so self-serving. They were so focused on how great we were and how perfect our offering is. And that what's inspired me to just build my own sales enablement sales slides. And that I use that for myself and for my team, my sales team. And we were having good success. And I decided there was a real opportunity to do that on the side, start a side hustle, helping other sales teams develop their sales messaging and slides to have better conversations. So I quit my job and did that full time because it was really lucrative, because it's really filling a big need, this gap between sales and marketing that I found. So Pitch Kitchen is focused on fixing bad sales presentations and boring homepages that sadly make themselves the hero of the story.
I think that's great. I worked at Oracle for 18 years, and I'm very familiar with a lot of ugly sales presentations, sales decks, and it's not really anybody's fault. People are trying to do the right thing, but there is this idea, like you said, of people being a little self-serving. They want to talk so much about what their product or service does that they forget that it's really about engagement with your target buyer.
Yeah. Yeah, it's engaging with your target buyer. It's also engaging with the ideas that your target buyer needs to understand, or the ideas that they understand, but they need you to shine more clarity around those ideas. And so those ideas, for example, HubSpot. HubSpot came out in 2012 with this concept of what they called inbound marketing.
Right.
And that's an idea that they had slides on, they had website content on, and it was an idea that they believed that that was the future of marketing.
Yes.
And they also appealed to customers who believed that inbound marketing was the future as well and something they should spend time on. So they were selling to people, they were talking about an idea. They were promoting an idea that's that their ideal customers believe in already. And I think that's great marketing. That's great marketing where you are not talking about yourself. You're not promoting, your slogans are not about how awesome you are, but they're how awesome a particular idea is. And that idea or that path or that method, that approach is the approach that leads to winning. And that's what I think, sadly, too many marketing teams miss. They just focus like, hey, I'm a marketer, I'm a CMO, I'm hired to do marketing. I'm going to market the hell out of this company. I'm just going to market all day long, and I'm going to shout from the mountaintops how great our product is. But The reality is, and you know this, I know this, we all know this, nobody really cares about you or your product. People care about themselves and their businesses. And if you're coming to them, with your fancy pants solution, talking about how great you are, sadly, that doesn't work anymore.
No, that's so true. And I think you also mentioned something earlier that I think is really important. We talk a lot about this concept of a buyer's journey. And really, there is this handoff between marketing and sales that sometimes is not a very kind of contiguous process, right? Marketing is putting out all this fancy messaging to the marketplace, and then sales comes in with a completely different approach to how they do it. And so there's a disconnect between what customers maybe have seen on the website. Do you deal with that a lot when you talk to your clients?
Yeah, and this is the principle that I rest on. So Seth Godin just said yesterday that the purpose of marketing is change. The purpose of marketing is to promote the change. And I think that's a great definition. But the purpose of sales then is to help facilitate that change. So there's perfect alignment in marketing and sales. If your marketing is like, let's go back to the HubSpot analogy. If marketing is to promote this idea of inbound marketing is the new, better way to go about your marketing, then the purpose of the sales team at HubSpot is to help people adopt and facilitate that change to start doing inbound marketing instead of outbound.
Yes.
So that I think there's the alignment.
Yeah. I think that makes a lot of sense. And it's so important because, that buyer's journey really is from before you're a customer to when you're in the buying process to when you are a customer. There are opportunities throughout that continuum. And it's important that messaging is consistent through there.
About the buyer's journey, too many people talk about the damn buyer's journey as if the end of the goal is that they're a customer. They buy, they sign on the dotted line and press hard twice so it goes through the carbon copies. Just kidding. That's a reference to that. But so to me, that's not the buyer's journey. The buyer's journey is their before state, before they met you, their current way of doing things that is, maybe it's untenable, maybe it's okay, maybe they're good to continue doing the things that they're doing today. Hopefully, if you're selling something to them that's going to help them be better, then the future, the journey that they're headed to is not to work with you, but to achieve that state, that future state where they're achieving their goal, where they're successful, where they have a better reputation, or they're getting more customers, or whatever their future state is. I think that's the filter that I look at in what a buyer's journey is. I think too many people think about buyer's journey to be, the finish line is when they are a customer. And that's not the finish line, because a year later, they're going to move, because so many SaaS businesses today rely on, their renewals. And they're not going to get renewals if they think their buyer's journey stops at the finish line of sales.
I think that's a great way to look at it. That's a very people can look at it very transactionally, right? And it's not. It's really a journey. It's what are you enabling that customer to do because they've purchased your products or service, and how can you help them on that full journey? I'd love to sort of dig into some of these points a little bit more with you. So let's start with the first one, which is really around simplifying your sales message, whether that's something on your website or in your presentations. So what do you think are the elements sort of a good, strong sales message?
Yeah. So the sales message really needs to be, when I say a singular sales message, is the platform for, are you still there, by the way? I think
I'm still here.
Yeah. The sales, when I say the sales message, what is not so much your elevator pitch, which is like a sentence, but what is the essential story that you're all about? And I'm writing a book now called The 12 Essential Conversations in Sales Therapy, the 12 essential conversations that are needed to help a customer along that buyer's journey. And again, with the goalpost being not the sale, but where they are successful. And I think the fundamental attributes of a great sales message is number one, it's not self-serving. It's not a slogan that promotes how great you are. It's a slogan that points to the future state that your customers want to be in. So, for example, like Donald Miller. Well, let's talk about Donald Miller's story brand in a moment. Donald Trump. So yesterday was Inauguration Day. Yes, Donald Trump was president for 4 years. It's a fact. It's another fact that his slogan that had 5 words, "Make America Great Again," spoke to his people. It was started with a verb, like Simon Sinek's "Start with Why," like Nike's "Just Do It." And the 3 of those slogans speak to their tribe, speak to their people, speak to their constituents about a future vision of themselves, or like, what do you need to do so that you can be successful? And so I think those are really powerful things, to have a 3 to 5 word hashtag or a story that's not about you, but it's about the place that you are helping your people get to. And I say let me just stop there. I'm sorry if I'm rambling, but
No, you're not rambling at all. I think that makes a lot of sense. It's very action oriented. But, I think we've talked about on this show before that there aren't really that many truly unique products in the marketplace. Most things are an iteration of something that's already there. And so I think that there's a temptation for a lot of businesses to want to say more, because they feel like they need to say more to differentiate their product from their competitors. How would you respond to that? Or just this notion that we've just got to say more, because that's really where the differentiator comes in?
when you say, you're saying that people need to say more? I'm sorry.
Yeah, when they are, whether it's their sales message or the verbiage on their website, that they feel they need to explain in very robust terms sort of why they're different, because it might not be obvious as to why company A is all that different from company B.
Right. Well, it's interesting. Well, so many things I'm thinking about. I had a poll on LinkedIn last week, and the poll was, what's your biggest competition right now? And there were 3 choices. One was your direct competition of companies selling similar products and services. 2, customers who are distracted doing other things. And 3, I have no competition. And believe it or not, nobody voted for 1. Nobody. So it's like, I think it's too self-centric to think that you need to be spending time talking about how unique your thing is. I think the focus should be on the problem that your customers are facing, talking about that problem, and if you can describe your customer's problem better than they can even describe it themselves, they will automatically think that you have the absolute best solution for them, because you know about that better than anybody. So that's a great differentiator between you and your competition, but to the degree to which you've described their problem. What do you think about that?
No, I think that makes so much sense, because, that's kind of marketing 101, I think, in that you want to focus things in terms of what is a pain point and how your solution sort of addresses that pain point. But the temptation is to go in and say, these are all the things that make our product better.
Yeah.
I'm always surprised, if you watch a television ad, they'll say, hey, we've got this great new product and it's got more of vitamin Q in it. Okay, well, so what? So what does vitamin Q actually do for me? But there's just this temptation to say, we've got more of this, we've got better of this. And well, do I need more of this? Do I need this to be better? What are you actually solving by adding these things to your product or service? And I think there's just this temptation to always say what's in it.
It's a temptation I think to also talk about happy talk. I see so much happy talk on websites, homepages. Be this, do that, be awesome. You can do this with this. But the problem with that is there's no skin in the game. People look at that, they're like, you know what, meh, who cares? But I know from selling multi-million-dollar deals that took 9 months and 14 people to make happen, that you don't sell by talking about happy things, about how great things can be and how perfect your solution is, a seamless, integrated fit to blah, blah, blah that nobody cares about. You only get to a sale when you really get your customers to realize and to acknowledge that if they did nothing between now and a year from now, and you ask them the question, would you be okay with that? If not, with these 5 things that we talked about that you're dealing with, would you be okay with that, with not making a change? And if they say like, no, we would not be okay, well, that basically is the starting point for a sales discussion. And in that, when you're talking about what you're not okay with, that is the juice that gets people to make a purchase. It's not, the juice isn't talking about the goals, like, oh, lose weight, feel great. That doesn't motivate anybody. Look great in a suit. That may not help people lose weight. What does help people lose weight? The cold reality of how they feel, how they physically feel, and talking about how does that make you feel to, huff and puff when you walk up a flight of stairs, or to not be able to wear your best suit. How does that make you feel?
It's that emotional connection, right?
What's that?
It's that emotional connection.
Yeah. How does it make you feel? Would that be okay if nothing happened? Would you be good if in 5 years or 2 years went by and no change? And a lot of people would be like, yeah, I guess, I'd be okay with that.
Right.
They're not a customer.
I think one of the interesting things too, as we sort of talk about, sort of designing your messaging, is that not every business has long sales cycles. Not everybody has to have a PowerPoint deck that they present to customers. For many businesses, the selling actually takes place on a web or through an ad. Yeah. And one of the things that I thought was very interesting when I reviewed the Pitch Kitchen website is that your website is loaded with proof points. You have, this is what a message looked like before, this is what a message looked like after. Over and over again, you very clearly sort of articulate the before and the after, and anybody without even reading the text can see that there has been streamlined messaging put in place here. And then you also have testimonials and things like that. Why do you think proof points are so valuable to companies in terms of building out their messaging story?
Well, that's one of the 12 conversations that need to happen. And I'm not going to go through all of them quickly, but you need to have a before and after conversation. Because they talk about a buyer's journey. Well, the before is where they're pretty much at now. And why would they even take one step on your damn journey unless you were clear with them about what would be on the other, when they cross the river. And the river costs money, and the river is dangerous, and the river is change. And there's so many people that invested time and money and dollars to be where they are today. So there's so much at risk for a business to make a change, to start any change of journey, that unless you have that single conversation of one of the 12 to talk about the outcomes and the results that they can expect, then that's an essential conversation of the 12. There's another conversation, which is great. I want that, but how are we going to get there? We have, 19 other systems, and we've got 4,000 people, and we're invested in all these different, applications, and whatever the complexity is of the deal, they're confused. They're like, we want those outcomes, but there's, to be honest with you, this is not going to happen quickly. This is going to be painful and expensive. And then you show me this PowerPoint slide where there's 19 steps that we have to take to get there. Excuse me, but we're just going to keep doing what we're doing. So any salesperson that thinks that their biggest competitor isn't the status quo is living a dream.
Oh, that's so true. Well, one of the things that I also was struck by, just recently we kind of celebrated the anniversary of the introduction of the iPhone. Steve Jobs made an iconic presentation that day when he introduced the iPhone. Yeah. And I think, he was a master at what he did, right? And I think there are a lot of people who would love to sort of emulate that style and really put forth a presentation that truly addresses those pains. But let's face it, not everybody is a Steve Jobs. Not everybody has a team of graphic designers to put together a beautiful PowerPoint. Not everybody is going to spend days in rehearsal to get everything right. And so there is also that danger, right, of oversimplifying it and then not being able to communicate effectively.
Yeah. So that's why I think it comes down to the 12 conversations instead of the focusing on the slides or the homepage. Because if you can really nail what these conversations need to be, what the story's about, what the before and after story really needs to be, what the plan needs to be, what the problem discussions need to look like, what the goal discussions need to, I'm just throwing out some of the 12. Once you really nail those, then you're like, well, I know what my slides need to be. I know what my whiteboards need to be. I know what the before and after story is. And then it's easier to then design your slides so that you could pull out the jack of spades to say, okay, now I need to have the before and after conversation with Bob, Susan, and Jamil. Or now I need to have the problem discussion with 4 other people because they're aware of the after. So you can assemble your conversations and design your conversations based on where you know your people need to be. And you need to be visual. This is a post-COVID world, and you need to use your screen as a stage, like Steve Jobs would use his screen as a stage, and interact with your content, interact with these conversations, and interact with your audience at the same time. You got to do both. And there's a great opportunity to do that well. But it's also a great opportunity to do it terribly and not do it.
Well, and it's interesting because you talk about these 12 conversations. We were talking before about the buyer's journey and the fact that it really is a journey that takes them sort of before they're a customer all the way through, and then to ultimately the outcomes that they're trying to achieve by purchasing your product or service. And it sounds like the way you frame these conversations is that they come in at very specific points in that continuum to be able to say, this is what's needed now as we engage with the customer to sort of help them over that next hurdle or to give them the vision of where they're going to be.
Right. So the sale and the buyer's journey is at the 50-yard line, in my view. That's where the sale is in the journey. It's not at the, the one or the goalpost. And I think that kind of sums it up. So that when people are creating slides, salespeople always like to consider themselves to be the trusted advisor. So that's the role here. And marketing needs to design conversations for their salespeople so that they can be that trusted advisor, not the shill on the mountaintop that they paid money to, or on the corner, the guy that they pay to, come to the car wash, or whatever with the sign. That's not the job of a salesperson.
Yeah.
But a lot of marketing people just give to salespeople the sign, here, use this deck that with these colors and these fonts and just like, matter of fact, why don't you just send that to your customer? We don't even need you as a salesperson. Just send them the deck. And it's a beautiful deck. It's gorgeous. Like, why wouldn't they buy, right? So of course we know that doesn't happen. In fact, why do you need to send them a deck? Send them to your website. Oh, you don't want to send them to your website because you're ashamed because the website is also terrible. So it's like there is a tension between sales and marketing because sales are really the ones. My heart bleeds for salespeople because I don't think most salespeople are given what they need armed to have the right conversations. They're kind of making it up as they go along, and I think marketing needs to cause that change that sales helps facilitate.
I think that's very true. And I think especially if you have a business that the product or something is not necessarily that different or unique, not that configured for every customer, it's much easier for marketing to provide more support to sales because there's a little bit of consistency in what goes out. It becomes a little bit more challenging, right? Unless you have a larger team, if you're doing a lot of custom things for every customer. But I want to sort of drill into this point that you mentioned sort of on visual tools and engagement, because really that's the last aspect of this, is engaging with your customers. We're still here in early 2021. We're at a time of COVID. A lot of people are working remotely. That probably is going to change a little bit, but working has definitely changed. And so it was always challenging when you get in front of a room of people and you went through a presentation deck and an hour-long, a set of speakers. Now it's even more challenging because you're remote. You've got people on their laptops with distractions in their homes. They can mute you and you don't really necessarily know what they're doing. So how do you look at that in today's age and say, we need to step it up, or we need to do things differently to get our messages across to our customers? You can't necessarily just do things the same way you were before.
Yeah. So getting your message across to customers, you know what? I feel like on Zoom calls, I'm a big fan of making Zoom calls just really unforgettable and awesome and super engaging. And I do my best to do that. And I think you can do that by just being having fun and being creative, asking people like, "Shit, let me see your hands. Show your hands. I'm asking you some questions. I'm going to do a little drawing on the board. I want you to tell me, what box do you think I should put the check mark in?" You're doing things that you would do in a room with people, but you're really, pushing yourself to use the limited technology we have. There's an app that I use called app. It's MMHMM. And it allows the green screen, if you will, behind me. It silhouettes me to be my presentation or to be my screen. And so it's an alternative camera, and it really allows the presenter to interact like they're in front of a stage or in front of a screen on the Zoom call. And then people are more like, they're looking at you, and you can see the screen, and you point to the screen, and it's really pretty cool. It was spawned up in April, just during COVID. And it's absolutely an essential tool, I think, right now for people that want to make their Zoom presentations much more engaging. I also think, the simple tricks of running polls too, showing a poll up on the screen, especially if larger groups. I've got two questions for you. One, do you think what's the most important issue this year with your CRM or whatever it is you're selling, or with your business? Or questions like that don't have open-ended, like, of these three problems, what's the biggest problem you think for your business? And that kind of creates a conversation with the three people that you need to be selling to on the call. And so you can do that, with polls. You can do that just informally, show of hands. But when people have their camera turned off, I don't know. It's harder to do that. You don't even know if they're there. I don't know if it's polite to ask people to turn their cameras on. I don't know. I think
it makes a difference. You want to see that. You want to see their eyeballs, right? You want to know that they're paying attention.
Yeah, but it's hard to demand that. But
sure.
I think you can ask kindly. Because you're saying you want to be asking questions. You want to say, since there's four of us, I want to ask for a show of hands, so we don't all have to chime in, just in the interest of time. So keep your cameras on, because I'll be asking you to, with a show of hands. That's a sort of a back end way to get people to turn their cameras on. I don't know.
Well, it's been interesting, I think, because, one of the changes that I think has really happened through COVID is that as people were forced to work from home, they finally were forced to turn these little cameras on that everybody's had on their computers for years, right? Yeah. But it was, while people would share images on Facebook or Instagram, those are all very choreographed, right? You can take a dozen takes to get that picture you just like. But when you turn on your webcam, people can see the cat in the background and the dirty laundry and the kids running through the house. And it took a lot of, I think, trust for people to finally say, I'm going to open my world up to you so that you can see. And I think we've sort of gotten past that now, and people are more comfortable. And I think that almost has to be celebrated in a way that when crazy things are happening, just acknowledge it. It shouldn't be a point of embarrassment. It should add some interest and excitement to the call.
Yeah, there's an app too that's just emerged in December called Clubhouse.
Yes.
It's all the rage. You probably heard of it. You heard of it?
I actually just logged onto it for the first time yesterday.
Yeah. So this is an audio only app, but it is a powerful and fascinating that an audio only app is creating so much engagement, so many real experiences for me and for a lot of people. Who knows what the future is, but I think in a time when people are desperate to have more connection with other people, Clubhouse is a place to do that.
What do you feel about this whole idea of sending video emails, with a tool like Loom or something like that? Are you a big believer in that?
Oh, I do it. I mean, I've got several video emails to do today. That's part of my sales work. I don't send regular emails to prospective customers anymore. I send basically a video where I use app for my green screen. So I basically put their website up on my screen, or I put their LinkedIn profile, and then I move to their website, and I scroll through their website, and I talk a little bit about what I do, what my firm does, and I offer some suggestions based on our experience of what would give them better leads, what would give them a clear message for their business. And I've been doing this so much that I can pretty much look at any website now and go live with a video and record it and send it off without even watching it. I'm sort of like getting practiced at it. So what I mean by practice, I basically call this exposure therapy. It's hard to get up on a camera and to just talk and know that you're being recorded and it's being sent in an email to someone, and they're going to judge you. They're going to say, oh, he's fat, he's got freckles, he's got a zit, look at the messy apartment he's in. And all that's going to go on while you're talking about their business and site. So
right.
We have to basically, I think, we have to just expose ourselves to that new reality, make peace with it, and move forward. Because otherwise, you're just going to be drowned in a sea of email noise that nobody could really see any difference. I get great responses from those emails. People book meetings all the time. They're like, wow, that was cool. Wow, I've never seen anyone use Drift, a video like that. Wow, what software are you using so you can share your screen behind you? Wow, that's cool. I also like what you said about our website. So it's like, it's the medium and the message combined. And I think we as creative sellers and marketers have to figure this shit out, because
absolutely we do.
New times.
Well, it's so funny because, again, this is not new technology. This is stuff that has been around for a while, the ability to embed a video within an email. But I'm lucky if I receive one of those a quarter. It's still not very commonplace. So I think sales professionals and marketers who take advantage of this, it's like this great world of podcasting that I'm in. There are a lot of podcasts out there, but there are very few that do it regularly. There's still a wide open space for people to get into those things. And if you're not taking advantage of these opportunities, you are missing out. I think the greatest thing that that businesses can do in times like this is learn how to pivot, learn how to take advantage of new technologies, figure out what's working, do some experimentation, and figure out how to build that engagement. I'm a big fan of Tony Robbins, and I saw, he gets all of his energy from doing these, 10,000 person events and whatnot. Yeah. Well, he just built a whole sound stage for himself so that he could literally have everybody's Zoom frame up on all these monitors that surround him, so he can recreate that vision of sort of all these people there. So
I did not know that. That's really awesome.
Yeah, Google it. It's a multi-million-dollar facility to obviously to accommodate all that. But it again shows how people are adapting and trying to figure out this whole idea of engagement. So I love some of the ideas that you shared with us today. Greg, as we kind of wrap things up here today, I'd love for you to share a little bit more about Pitch Kitchen, the kinds of work that you do, and how people can find you on the web.
Sure. So pitchkitchen.com, and you can find us there. And if you are a CEO or a chief revenue officer or even a CMO who wants some support in clarifying your story, your message, your anthem, your platform, your conversations, in fact, that your team needs to be having to help your customer along their journey to their success. Someone said, I posted it on LinkedIn. I love this quote. If you could help people get the things that they want in their lives, then you could bet that you will get the things that you want in your life. And I believe that. I just feel that. Do you feel that's true, Eric?
I really do. I really do. I love that.
Yeah. So I mean, that's my philosophy. And so I think if I want to work with customers who believe that too, and believe and also recognize that their slides, their homepage is literally letting them down. They're not really engaging with their customers in the right way.
Greg, I think that's great. When I was looking to do this episode, I specifically hunted you out and I saw the things that you were doing on the website. And I'm such a firm believer in that as well, is simplify your messaging, make sure that people really understand the value that you're providing. And like I said, you've got some great examples on your website. I will make sure to have all of that linked up in the show notes so that people can find you. And I certainly appreciate your time today being here on this Masterclass episode. Thank you so much, Greg.
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thanks.